Today on SUNUP, what the Farm Bill delay means for drought and other disaster assistance. Plus, a look at how much information is contained in the bovine genome. And a stop in the city of AGtropolis. All next on SUNUP.
Hello everyone and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. We join you today from the 2012 Oklahoma State Fair, where the theme this year is homegrown fun, and these vintage tractors certainly caught our eye. We'll have more from the fair a little later in the show, but first a Farm Bill update with our Ag Policy Specialist, Jody Campeacci.
Well, the current Farm Bill expires September 30th of this year. We still are not really anywhere closer to getting a new Farm Bill in the next few weeks. So what's probably going to happen is that probably nothing will happen in the next few months, but maybe we'll pass an extension in the lame duck session in December. But right now we're just kind of in limbo. Congress may pass a continuing resolution to continue on with the current Farm Bill past September 30th. But some of the key issues that have been asked about the Farm Bill is that there's some livestock disaster assistance programs that were authorized in the 2008 Farm Bill, specifically the Livestock Indemnity Program, the Livestock Forage Disaster Program. And in 2011, the Livestock Forage Disaster Program was very, very important for Oklahoma producers. It provided coverage for grazing losses due to drought issues. The Livestock Indemnity Program provides coverage for livestock deaths in excess of normal mortality. So I've had a lot of questions of, are those programs coming back, because they were only authorized through October of 2011. So the latest that I've heard is that in both the Senate and the House bills, both bills include those disaster programs. So once a Farm Bill is passed, those programs will more than likely be in the new Farm Bill. And it is quite likely that they'll actually go back and cover losses for 2012, because I know we've had a lot of producers in the state that definitely had some drought-related losses in 2012.
And since we are in such limbo and with all the political questions, what's going to happen, what the outcome may be, what advice do you have for producers as far as documentation and staying organized once we do have a final decision?
So probably the most important piece of advice I can give producers in regard to government programs is to keep very accurate production records. And even right now, when we don't have these programs in place, once they do get in place and if they decide to go back and cover losses through 2012, it is important that producers have continued to keep these records. So for any government programs, they need to keep very accurate production records. The other thing I'll mention is that we do have a couple of other disaster programs that are in place right now, and we're not waiting on those. Most of the state has been declared as a primary natural disaster area, which makes producers in most of the state eligible for low interest emergency loans. Also, CRP emergency haying and grazing is available right now. Usually it ends September 30th due to the primary nesting season, but they've actually extended that for another 2 months, so through the end of November. There's also a few options if producers have EQIP or Wetlands Reserve Program contracts. There's actually been some funding provided to allow producers to maybe go in and change these contracts a little bit to help with some of their drought assistance needs. And producers would need to go to their NRCS office to ask about those programs. So I would say producers definitely should check with their Farm Service Agency office and their NRCS office for options on some of the drought programs.
Okay, and finally just a quick mention about the crop insurance deadlines for wheat and that price set.
Yeah, the crop insurance deadline for wheat and other small grains is October 1st, so we don't have much time left. The wheat projected price has been set. It's at $8.78, so producers definitely need to go into their crop insurance agent and get their crop insurance.
Okay, Jody Campeacci, our Ag Policy Specialist, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Al Sutherland with your Mesonet weather report. The end of last week brought rain and cooler temperatures to Oklahoma. The cooler temperatures have been great. Unfortunately, the rainfall was patchy. The patchiness of the rain jumps out on our 7-day rainfall map that goes from Thursday, September 6th through Wednesday, September 19th. The green areas had 3/4 of an inch or more. The yellow and tan areas had 2 inches or more. The disappointment was how few places received those 2-inch plus rains. It looks like days with 100-degree temperatures are behind us for this year. Granfield comes in with 60 days at or above 100 degrees. Boise City and Antlers come in with the least at 15 100-plus days. Most Oklahoma locations had twice their average of those 100-plus days in 2012. Like our patchwork rain, the burn ban situation is also patchy this week as we end the week. The counties colored red are still under the governor's burn ban. The 2 yellow counties, Tulsa and Delaware, have county burn bans. The counties colored white have no current burn bans. Gary, how did the rain impact our drought situation?
Thanks, Al, and good morning, everybody. Well, we have had some pretty decent rains over the last couple of weeks, and also a couple of pretty good cold fronts, too, that really cooled off the temperatures. How's that impacted the drought? Well, let's take a look at the latest U.S. Drought Monitor map and see what it shows. Well, as you can see, we did get rid of that D4 exceptional drought up in northeastern Oklahoma. Unfortunately, that D4 drought spread in other parts of the state. It's now centered over the Oklahoma Panhandle all the way out to the Mexico state line and also in southwestern Oklahoma. And we had an increase of that extreme drought and the red colors down in southeastern Oklahoma as well. So we still need a lot of rainfall to get rid of some of these bad colors. Despite the recent rains, those long-term rainfall deficits still dominate our drought picture. Take a look at this map from the Oklahoma Mesonet for May 1st through September 18th, and you can see the damage done. Some parts of western Oklahoma have had as little as 4 inches of rain. Now that's up to 16 inches of rain in northeastern Oklahoma, but still lots of folks are having pretty big deficits through that period. The statewide average for that period was around 9 inches, and that's for the last 5 months since May 1st, but that still is below normal by about 8 inches. That's made even more clear on this departure from normal rainfall map for the same period, May 1st through September 18th. You can see much of the state is more than 8 inches below normal. Now that's also the driest May 1st through September 18th, dating back to at least 1921. That's the second summer in a row that we've had these type of conditions. This is no secret, and I say it pretty much every week. We simply need a lot more rainfall to get out of this drought situation. The relief last year started in October, so we have that hope going into October this year. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.
The 4-H National Science Experiment is coming up in a couple of weeks, and here to talk about it with us today is Jeff Salee, our 4-H Extension Specialist for Science and Technology, and his daughter Allie. Thanks you guys for coming in. Jeff, let's start with you, kind of talk about what the project is and why it's important.
The National Youth Science Experiment is about getting kids interested in science and engineering and technology and math. And what we've done is we just come up with fun things that they can do and that they can play with, and that they can see science as more than being back in a lab wearing a lab coat. This experiment is called the EcoBot. It's about robotics, it's about the environment, and it has a fun little scenario about cleaning up a beach that has a toxic spill on it. But overall, the goal of what we want to do is we want to get 4-H clubs all across the nation, in all states. They can be homeschool clubs, they can be in-school clubs, after school, to do this experiment on October 10th. And it's a huge event for us, and it's just an opportunity to just really showcase what 4-H has to offer in science.
And so as the state liaison, then you've kind of gathered these materials and then gotten them out across Oklahoma?
Yes, we've shipped these kits all over the states. We have a lot of counties that will be doing this. Some of them will be doing it on October 10th, but we're not just limited to that. We like for them to do it sometime in October and just teach kids about engineering and science.
Okay, Allie, we've got sort of the framework of the project here. You tell us about what this is and kind of what we're seeing.
Well, this is an example of Bailey Beach, and there's been a toxic spill. So we put birdseed there to represent the spill and made these little eco-bots to help clean it up.
And then what is the EcoBot? It looks like you've got part of a toothbrush here, but what else is on here?
There's a watch battery and a vibrating pager motor, so it'll make the toothbrush vibrate to move.
Okay, and then we have our beach here, and then what's the straw representative of?
To represent like the barricades so that the toxic spill won't go any farther.
Okay, so to kind of keep it contained. So show me how you turn this on and then what it does to the oil / birdseed.
Well, you're just gonna put this top wire down onto the battery, and it should start vibrating like that.
So Jeff, what is this representative of then? Now that we're seeing.
Well, the scenario for this is that you have to send a robot in here because it would be harmful for humans to go in there and clean up the toxic spill. And on top of the beach, there's a little grid, and the birdseed is spread out across that grid. And as the little robot moves around, it moves the birdseed off the grid. And you can count the number of squares and see what the efficiency is that you have. This right here is just the introduction. It's to show how the robot works and what the robot is supposed to do. The kids can take this and take it a step further simply by, adding a blade to the robot, hooking the two robots together, being creative and thinking about how can they make this work better. So you see that it will work, but there's lots of room for improvement for how this functions. And that's where the math comes in and help them understanding the engineering design process.
Okay, wonderful. Well, Jeff and Allie, thank you very much for giving us a little taste of what the National Science Experiment will be this year. We appreciate your time. And for more information on the project, you can just go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.
Recently, we received an email question from one of our regular SUNUP viewers. You see, he had a set of twins born to one of the cows that calved this fall in his herd, and that raised several questions in his mind. He was concerned about the reproductive capability of those twin calves because he's heard that there might be a potential problem. And yes, he's right, that anytime we have a heifer born twin to a bull, it is very, very likely that she's incapable of reproducing, and we certainly don't want to keep her as a replacement heifer. If we have twin bull calves or twin heifer calves, no particular problem is expected. But other concerns about twins born during any calving season also came to his mind. What about the nutritional needs of both calves? Can that cow supply them? Well, that's certainly very, very difficult to answer because there's so much difference in the milk producing capabilities of beef cows. Some cows might be able to raise both calves, but if that's a first calf heifer that's not giving very much milk, chances are one of them won't be getting as much milk as the other, and you'll have a difference in the growth pattern of those calves. Also, I'd be really concerned about the first milk that those calves got. One of those calves might have gotten most of the colostrum in that first milking, whereas the second calf didn't get it until later when he's a day or two old and he's not getting the disease protection that he needs, making one of those calves much more prone to getting calf scours or other diseases later on. Also, the reproducing capability of that mother cow may be slightly impaired just due to the fact that she went through a very long delivery process, delivering both calves in this particular situation. Also, the suckling intensity, and that's just this business of how often the cow is nursed and with what vigor the calves are nursing that cow, has an impact on when she comes back into heat to have a chance to rebreed. And yes, there's a genetic component to twinning. Cows that had a set of twins this year may be just a little more likely than the rest of the herd to have twins in subsequent calving. We know that the USDA Meat Animal Research Center at Clay Center, Nebraska selected a herd for years and years and years for twinning and actually got to a point to about 25% of the cows having twins every year. Well, I thought this summary of the effect of twinning might help not only this producer, but others that have the same kinds of questions. And we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
Wheat planted acres are projected higher for 2013. Kim Anderson, our grain marketing specialist, joins us now. And Kim, with this news, what are some of the price implications?
Well, the first thing we got to think about is if it doesn't rain, there probably won't be a price implication. The hard red winter wheat planted acres, they'll probably be about the same as they were last year. Soft red winter wheat acres will be slightly higher, and a lot of that will go into the feed wheat with the tight corn stalks. And then the spring wheat acres, which were down a little bit this last year, will probably be higher. That'll move into the milling and baking area. I don't think it's going to have any price impact until we get into the February, March time period. Right now, we're going to have to deal with the U.S. and world stocks as they are.
Okay, since we saw you last week, there was some up and down in the wheat prices. What's going on there?
Well, it tends to happen after we tape this. Prices tend to go up or down, and we got about a 40-cent price increase last Thursday and Friday. Got phone calls, is it going to break that $9.57 resistance point? On Friday we got into Monday and we dropped 47 cents. We're still moving in this sideways pattern. Now that pattern may have tightened up a little bit with support around $8.87 and resistance at $9.50 rather than the old $8.69 and the $9.57.
Okay, what's the latest on the international front in terms of supply?
Well, we can pull up the usual suspects of Russia, Kazakhstan, and Ukraine. The deal is there, when are they going to run out of wheat? They've been aggressively selling on the export market. Still concerns about weather in Australia and how that crop's going to end. But right now we have plenty of wheat in the U.S. and the world.
Okay, and we'll talk more next week about wheat prices and some of the patterns that we're in. We'll see you then. Thanks a lot, Kim.
Hi, welcome to Shop Stop. Today we want to talk a little bit about choke cables or just general push-pull cables and lubrication for those.
Well, what we have here is a cable, but the thing you want to be careful of is not just putting oil in there, and the reason you don't want to do that is because all it'll do is collect dust and dirt along the way.
So there's a couple different ways that you can lubricate it. One is to look at some type of a powder lubricant, a graphite or something like that, and get that inside the cable. So it's dry lubricant, and it will and it's not going to collect that extra dust. It's going to make it harder to push-pull.
Now, there's also something out there that actually has a carrier with it, and it's got graphite in it as well, but if you've got a problem farther in your cable, well, it'll help carry it down in there, and then that liquid will eventually evaporate off and just leave a dry material.
So if you got that push-pull cable that sticks and it's not operating correctly, a few tips on getting it lubricated.
Now, one other thing before we get out of here is if you do have a kink in your cable, it's not going to help you on that problem. You're going to have to get a new cable altogether for that.
So there's some tips on choke cables. We'll see you next week on Shop Stop.
Cattle contribute more than $3 billion annually to the Oklahoma economy. That makes for big business and a situation where producers can capitalize on every advantage they can get.
More information helps us make better decisions. And so if we've got the information, it'll aid us in selection and particularly those mating decisions at some point down the road.
The information extension economist Eric DeVeest is referring to here is DNA, the massive code of genetic information embedded in every cell of the animal. base pairs of A, G, C, and T, who come together to define what that animal is. But as often as DNA is discussed these days, it is easy to overlook just how expansive the data set is. To get a handle on that, I asked Extension Cattle Management Specialist Megan Rolfe to meet me at the Career Tech Printing Center in Stillwater, a place where they deal with a lot of information.
Well, humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes plus the sex chromosomes, whereas cattle have 29 pairs of chromosomes plus their sex chromosomes. Although their genomes are about the same size, they're both about 3 billion base pairs.
Okay, so now when we talk about that and we break that down, it's all those base pairs, that A, G, C, T. Show us here, you've got this on paper, you've actually printed some of this out to show what kind of data we're talking about here.
Yeah, so we've got 4 bases within the genome. We've got A, G, C, and T. And there's about just shy of 3,200 bases on this one sheet of paper. So if we were to expand that to the entire genome, it's actually just shy of 5 pallets of paper would make up the entire genome, printing it out like this.
All right, so basically take this times 5. That's how much information you've got to deal with when you're looking at what really makes a cow be a cow in a certain way.
That's how much information would be in one copy of each of the chromosomes in about a 3 billion base pair genome.
Now, you may remember news stories about the Bovine Genome Sequencing Project. That first mapping of the DNA took 5 years and cost around $52 million. But that price is coming down.
So for example, a few years ago, genomes were costing about $10,000 to sequence to a similar depth as the Bovine Genome Sequencing Project. And now a new sequencer is rumored to come out where we could sequence the bovine genome to a 30x coverage for about $1,000 in less than a week.
Now that is still a lot of money for something that gives you much the same information you get in a standard EPD. But Rolfe says there are some situations where this still makes sense.
Where these genomic tests have the potential to have a lot of value in the beef industry is for animals with low accuracy EPDs, be they yearling bulls or replacement heifer prospects. For example, those 50K SNP chips are worth approximately 7 to 20 progeny equivalents, meaning that the amount of information that you get from running one of those genomic panels is equal to that animal having anywhere between 7 and 20 progeny that are reported back to the breed association.
And so that's the direction that some of the genetics and breed associations are taking. They're incorporating that genetic information, they call it genomically enhanced EPDs. And so what that does is it greatly improves the accuracy of virgin bulls. And so producers that are buying those are going to have a much better knowledge of how that bull's offspring are going to perform both from birth through the feedlot.
But both Rolfe and DeVeest remind us that this science is still young, and while there is a wealth of information to be gleaned from DNA, there is still a great deal of work to be done in figuring out the translation of that data.
The challenge right now is we don't have great data. The research that's been done has been done on a segment at a time within the supply chain. So we might look at how does a set of genetic markers affect calf weaning weights at the cow-calf level. But we don't then continue down and say, all right, what's that going to do to feedlot performance? And what's that going to do when the consumer bites into that steak? Is it going to improve the palatability, the market value of a cutout to the consumer? We just don't know that yet because we tend to look at segments. It's going to take a lot more research. You know, we're going to need to start tracking sets of cattle through from their parents, the dam and the sire's genetic panels, all the way to the plate, and doing those consumer taste panels here to see how do they add value here or detract from value, and what do they do at every one of the intermediate steps.
Finally today, we're visiting the city of AGtropolis, where kids of all ages enjoy being a farmer for a day. Welcome to AGtropolis, where you'll find Goat and Sheep Mountain, a few chickens, rabbits and rabbit trivia, even a couple of alpacas. And that's only the beginning. Bill Majors is the mayor of this agricultural metroplex that's divided up into different neighborhoods.
That's the handle they put on my wife and I. as the mayor and the first lady of AGtropolis.
When he's not running this fictional city, Bill's an Angus rancher up near the Garfield and Noble County line. Here, though, he oversees AGtropolis for the run of the state fair and helps supervise student volunteers like Zachary Taylor of Ripley.
I just enjoy helping people, and I just thought it would be a great experience.
Zachary is an FFA member. He's teaching little ones what it's like to be a farmer for a day.
They're learning about how to plant seeds, like right here. They're learning how to dig up potatoes and to get pumpkins, and how pumpkins are made. And they're also learning that apples, like you pull apples from a tree. And from here, it also shows that you get chicken from eggs, or you get eggs from chickens, my bad.
We stand corrected. From here, children weigh their fruits and veggies and earn pretend money to spend in the general store.
I bought a coloring book, and then I did it again, and I bought this ribbon.
8-year-old Callie Langerman and her sister love it.
It's a good experience because some people they live in the city in Oklahoma, the city of Oklahoma, and they don't know about farming a lot, so they come here and they do a little bit of farming.
It's an eye-opener, I think, for a lot of people. And I do get many farmers, ranchers that come through here. And it's a thumbs up.
That does it for us this week. Remember, you can find us anytime online at sunup.okstate.edu. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm Lyndall Stout. We'll see you next time at SUNUP.